Jai Hind children, I welcome you all in today's live class of biology. Children, we are discussing the chapter Nutrition in Animals. In our previous class, I have explained you that the process of digestion of food in stomach, and I explained you that the different liquids which released from the inner lining of stomach and they help in digestion of food. Now, after the food from the stomach passes from the stomach to small intestine. So, children, today we will mainly discuss about the digestion of food in small intestine. And I'm going to share my screen for discussion of digestion of food in small intestine. When the food passes in small intestine from stomach, as the food leaves our stomach, little by little, it enters a long winding tube below it. It is called the small intestine. The last steps of digestion takes place here. The muscles in the small intestine mix food with more digestive juices. Some juices are secreted by the cells of the small intestine itself. Others comes from the liver, which is the largest gland in the body, and the pancreas that is located just below the stomach. The liver secretes bile juice which is stored in gallbladder. So let's come to that explanation of digestion of food in small intestine. Now, children, remember that in my previous class, I have told you that the digestion is going to start from our mouth with the action of saliva. But that time, that digestion of starch into sugar was not completed. It is partial digestion. And when the food passes from mouth through the esophagus and comes in stomach, here again hydrochloric acid and the digestive juice which release from the stomach help in digestion of proteins, breaks them in simpler substances. But the digestion of protein here also not completes. It's partial digestion of proteins takes place in stomach, and the partial digestion of starch into sugar takes place in mouth. And these all digestions get completes in the small intestine. So after the stomach, that food comes into a large winding tube-like structure, and this tube-like structure is known as small intestine. Now, children, this is the structure that already I have drawn in previous class. Now again, as the food leaves this stomach and enters in this winding tube-like structure. So this is known as small intestine. When the food enters in the small intestine, here certain juices are going to mix in the food. The one that comes from the gallbladder, which is located on the liver. So the liver is one of the largest gland our body. It produces a liquid that is known as bile juice. And this bile juice gets stored in gallbladder. And from gallbladder, this bile juice comes in small intestine, mixed with the fluid and help in the digestion of food. And the second gland is the pancreas. Pancreas is going to produce a juice that is known as simply pancreatic juice, and it also help in digestion of food. So the partially digested food when move forward from stomach to small intestine, the first this bile juice get added here, and it breaks one of the important component of our food, that is fats, and converts it tiny droplets. So the fats, which is an undigested part of the food, get converted into tiny droplets which can easily be digested with the action of bile juice. And when that fat get converted into tiny droplets, it again get digested or broken down into simpler substance by the action of digestive juices, and it gets changed into fatty acids and glycerol. So the fat of our food is going to break down into the simpler substance, that is fatty acid and glycerol, with the help of bile juice and the juice, digestive juice, which is secreted from the small intestine. So they both together are responsible for this breakdown. Now, after that, the pancreas also add the pancreatic juice in the food, and this pancreatic juice is responsible for the complete digestion of starch into sugar. The saliva in the mouth, it's partially digested the starch into sugar, and the complete digestion of starch into sugar takes place with the action of this pancreatic juice. And also the protein which get partially digested in the stomach get completely digested with the help of this pancreatic juice, and the protein get converted into amino acids. So the conversion takes place starch into sugar by the action of saliva in the mouth and also the pancreatic juice. And Proteins get broke down into simpler form, that is amino acid, by the action of the digestive juice that comes from the stomach, and finally the pancreatic juice. So these both the digestive enzymes are responsible for the conversion of proteins from complex form to simpler form, that is amino acid. And the saliva and this pancreatic juice, they both together again responsible for the breakdown of starch into the simpler form, that is sugar. So these all conversion takes place in our small intestine. So that is why small intestine is an important part of the alimentary canal, in which the complete digestion of food takes place, and the food moved forward by the same kind of movement as I have explained you earlier, that is in esophagus it occurs peristalsis movement. So the food passes forward in this whole small intestine by the action of peristaltic movement, that is contraction and expansion of the muscles of small intestine, and goes to the large intestine. The bile breaks up fats into tiny droplets that can be digested and absorbed more easily. The digestive juices then act on these tiny droplets to form simpler compounds, that is known as fatty acids and glycerols. The pancreas secretes the pancreatic juice that changes starch into simple sugars and proteins into simpler compound called amino acids. Now, then I'm going to write down here that the conversion which takes place in the small intestine. First of all, the fats of the food get converted into fatty acids and glycerol. And this conversion takes place with the action of bile juice and digestive juice. So the bile juice and digestive juice, these both together are responsible to convert the complex form of the fats into the simpler form, that is fatty acids and glycerol. So children, here you have to know the name of the substance that form after the breakdown of complex form of fats. So that substance is fatty acids and glycerol. And now these are easily digested and can absorb because they are the simpler form of the substance. Second conversion takes place of proteins. Proteins get converted into amino acids. Amino acids are the simpler form of proteins. Amino acids can easily digested and absorbed, and this conversion of proteins into amino acids takes place with the action of digestive juice and plus pancreatic juice. So the digestive juice that secretes from stomach and the pancreatic juice that secretes from pancreas. They both are responsible for the complete breakdown of proteins into amino acid, which is a simpler substance. The third conversion takes place of starch get converted into simple sugar, and this conversion takes place by the action of saliva plus pancreatic juice. So these both are responsible for the conversion of starch into simple sugar. And the simple sugar is a simpler form of substance that can easily be digested and absorbed by the body. So these all complex substances get converted into simpler substances by the action of these different juices that secretes from different parts of our body. Some secretes from salivary gland in the mouth, some secretes from stomach, that digestive juice, some secretes from gallbladder, that is bile juice, some secretes from pancreas, that is pancreatic juice. And these all are going to convert the complex substances of the food into the simpler substances. After the digestion of food, when all the substances get broke down from complex to simple form, the next step in the process of nutrition is absorption. And this absorption takes place in small intestine. The digested food is then absorbed by the small intestine, and the absorption of food occurs through thousands of small finger-like projections in the inner walls of the small intestine. These projections are known as villi. These villi increase the surface area of absorption of digested food, and each villus has a network of fine blood capillaries which are very close to the surface, and the food absorbed on the surface of the villus passes into the blood in the capillaries. Now, after the digestion of the food in small intestine, the next process which is present there in the nutrition is absorption of food. And this absorption in human being especially takes place in small intestine. Absorption in the small intestine. Now, children, as the complex form of the nutrients get converted into simpler form, now they are ready for absorption because they can absorb now. In complex form, they cannot absorb. So the small intestine have the surface area like that, by which this absorption can easily take place. So I'm going to explain you the process of absorption with the help of this diagram of a small intestine. This is the tube that our small intestine have like this. If we take a cut of this small intestine, so we'll get the structure somewhat like that. As you are able to see that the outer wall of a small intestine is smooth and plain, but the inner wall is not smooth, it's not plain, it's highly coiled. It have a number of finger-like projections in its small intestine, inside that small intestine. If we see the structure of this finger-like projection, so it will look somewhat like that. This is a structure of villi, which is present inside the small intestine. So these finger-like structures, finger-like projection inside the small intestine is known as villi. And a single villus is looks somewhat like that. And this villus have the fine blood capillaries. The fine blood capillaries present over all the surface of a villus, each and every villus. As the food passes after the digestion, their all complex substances get broken down into simpler form, and now they can easily get absorbed through this wall of villi and mixed into the blood, goes into the blood capillaries. And this process is known as absorption of food. So while moving the food, that their complex substances already get broken down into soluble and simple form. Now they can easily get mixed into the blood, and the blood is present in these blood capillaries which are present in excess in these all finger-like projections, that is villi. These villi are going to play an important role here, as number of villi are responsible for increasing the surface area inside the small intestine, and the more surface area results more absorption of food. So that is why all the digested food get absorbed here in small intestine with the help of this large surface area or increased surface area inside the small intestine with the help of this villi. And finally those all digested food get mixed in the blood, in blood capillaries which are present in all the villis. It have a network, fine network in all the villis. So all food get mixed, get absorbed by these villas and finally goes to the capillaries. And now with the help of the blood flow, these all food move to each and every part of our body, each and every tissues of our body. After the absorption of food, the next step of the nutrition is assimilation. The food absorbed into the blood is transported to different parts of the body. It is used to provide energy and materials for growth and repair of body tissues. This is the final stage in the process of digestion and is known as assimilation. Glucose is broken down in the cells with the help of oxygen into carbon dioxide and water to provide energy. Amino acids are used for building and repairing of body parts, and the fatty acids and glycerols are stored under the skin and acts as energy reserves. Now, children, after the absorption of the food in small intestine through this villi, all the food moves in the blood capillaries and get used for various purpose in the body. So that utilization of these absorbed food or digested food is known as assimilation. The next process of nutrition after the absorption is assimilation. Assimilation. Assimilation means that utilization of nutrients. That is known as assimilation. So it is the final stage or final step of the process of digestion. We can say that in the process of nutrition. Here the different nutrients as we have discussed that mainly the three components of the food, that is fats, proteins and starch, they get broken down into simpler forms. So after breaking them down in simpler form, they absorbed into the blood, and from the blood they reaches to different body tissues, and there they are going to use for various purpose. So come one by one. The first nutrient, that is glucose or simple sugar, which is the result of breakdown of starch. So this simple sugar, which is glucose, that comes after the digestion of starch, and this glucose in the body tissues are going to play an important role when it get combined with oxygen, and after combining with oxygen it's going to form carbon dioxide, water, and also release the energy. So this energy our body is going to use to do the different life processes, to do the different activities. And this energy is the result of combination of glucose with oxygen in our body tissues. And along with the energy, these two products also form. That first one is carbon dioxide and second one is water. And you can write the same equation as that formula of glucose is C6H12O6 plus oxygen going to produce carbon dioxide, water, and release the energy in the form of ATP. So here ATP indicate for energy. So carbon dioxide, water and ATP, these are the three products which formed when these two reactants are going to react together. That first one is glucose and oxygen. So the first component of the food, that is starch, is get breaks down into glucose and used for producing the energy in our body. Now just like that, the second important component of the food, that was protein. It breaks down into amino acid, and this amino acid is responsible for the body growth and repairing the parts of body. These are the functions which are played by the amino acid in our body: growth of the body and repairing the damaged parts of the body. And this amino acid is the result of digestion of proteins, because protein is the complex form. It get broken down into simpler form as the action of digestive juices and the pancreatic juice, and converted into amino acid, and these amino acid get absorbed in the blood and move to different body parts, different tissues, and responsible for the growth of body and repairing. Now the third one, fats. Converted into fatty acid and glycerol. So fats get broken down after the digestion by the action of saliva and the bile juice into fatty acid and glycerol, and these two get absorbed by the blood and move to different body parts, different body tissues, and get stored there. They are mainly get stored in the body and used as the substance to produce energy at the time of emergency. So they are the stored material and used to produce the energy and supply the energy to the body. Otherwise, they get deposited below the skin in our body in the form of fatty acid and glycerol. So these are the three important substances which are present in our food, and after the digestion of these substances our body is going to get energy, body growth, repairing, and the storage of the food in the body, and this process is simply known as assimilation. Children, I hope that you understood the topic absorption and the assimilation. Once again, I am going to revise. Just listen very carefully. In the absorption, all the digested food in simpler form get absorbed by the blood capillaries into the blood, and the blood carry them to all the body parts, to all the body tissues, and there they all get utilized. So that utilization of that absorbed food is known as assimilation. And how they utilize? So they are utilized in different ways. The different components utilized in different ways. The starch, which get digested into simple sugar, that is glucose, it's going to use to produce the energy when it get combined with oxygen. And along with the energy, it's also produce carbon dioxide, which we exhale from our lungs. through the nose, and the water. So they both are the products which are formed in our body tissues. Second, the proteins part of our food get break down into amino acid by the action of pancreatic juice and digestive juice, and they are responsible for growth and repairing of our body parts. And the third important component of the food, fats, it's get converted into fatty acids and glycerol by the action of saliva and bile juice. And these fatty acids and glycerol get stored in the body for the time of emergency. And when that amount of energy get reduced in the body, so these are the substances used to produce energy and fulfill the requirement of energy for the body. Children, I hope that you understood the topics which I have explained. Thank you and have a nice day.